What's going on, YouTube? Today I bring you my number 8 power rank team for the 2021 NFL season, and as you saw by the title, that is the Tennessee Titans. This is a team with a scary offense, and to be quite honest, a defense that I think is a little bit underrated. So we're going to hop into that day. Also, just want to say I'm using a new editing software and everything, so because, the old one just kind of sucked and had some issues with it. So we're using a new one, and if it's a bit choppy and, we'll figure things out, but bear with me if it is a little bit choppy. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with the quarterback position, Ryan Tannehill, obviously career revival since Miami. Here's the thing, I think Tannehill is a bit overrated. He is a good quarterback, but at the same time, he was pretty garbage with the Dolphins. Now, I understand he had nothing to work with in Miami, but if you look at the team he has, come on, he has the best running back in the NFL. He has maybe the best receiver duo in the NFL. He has one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And he also had one of the most brilliant offensive coordinators in the NFL with Arthur Smith. There you go, Arthur Smith. And I still think he is a good quarterback, but to me, he's just kind of like another Kirk Cousins, kind of that Baker Mayfield, to where he is a good quarterback on his own, sure, but I definitely think when you put talent around him, that's when he succeeds more. He is better than Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's better than Baker Mayfield. Doesn't have as high a ceiling at this point in his career, but he is barely just starting to enter his prime, really. But still a solid quarterback, and obviously still getting the job done for sure for these Titans. So nothing to really complain about there. Your backups are something to complain about. Logan Woodside and Matt Barkley don't exactly make the best depth in the world. So the grade gets lowered a little bit because if Tannehill does go down. At least you still have a scary rushing attack, but the Titans were stuck in 8-8 for years just with a rushing attack. So because of that, depth does have to bring it down, but it's still an A- to me. At the running back position, Derrick Henry, to me, is the best player in the NFL. Derrick Henry is just an absolute monster of a human being. The dude pushes off NFL players like they're toddlers. Nothing much more to say about him. Yeah, he has an offensive line, but every running back needs an offensive line. Derrick Henry, fantastic, obviously. To me, he's one of the few. To me, he's a top 5 player in the NFL. I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think he's a top 5 player in the NFL. Darrynton Evans has not really. Of course, you have the best running back in the NFL, so you're not going to be playing Darrynton Evans that much. But they're drafting him in hopes that if Henry does get hurt, he can kind of step in and be that. I don't know if he really is, but Brian Hill, and Jeremy McNichols is Jeremy McNichols. So Derrick Henry by himself brings this to an A+. Because Darrynton Evans, I think at the very worst, would still be a serviceable running back. It would hurt the team for sure because he's not Derrick Henry, obviously. But Derrick Henry, he's remained a beast. He stays very healthy year in, year out. He's elite. So Derrick Henry gives this room. I guess I'll drop it to an A because of the depth, but still a fantastic room. At wide receiver, to me, Julio Jones comes in as the number 1. Now, I'm aware last year was not the best. He was hurt. He's going into his 30s now. How will he play? I just don't think he's a top 5 wide receiver. One bad year because of injuries. Obviously, that's something to be wary about, but it's one bad year with injuries, and really, even then, he still actually put up good production in the games he did play. I think especially in this offense now where he's not having to be the main producer, that obviously helps. And he's got, although Calvin Ridley was also a good receiver, obviously, I do think A.J. Brown is better than Calvin Ridley. And so I think he steps in as the number 1, but it's very, very, plausible that Brown is the number 1. And I think by the end of the season, A.J. Brown is the number 1. But I could see day 1, Julio Jones being there. Regardless, still a top 5 receiver to me. Maybe he'll regress this year because of the injury and stuff, but to me, I think he's going to put up another great year here with the Titans. The number 2, A.J. Brown, in my opinion, stepping in day 1, but again, I expect by the end of the season, A.J. Brown to be number 1. Now, A.J. Brown's a guy that I don't always like say he's automatically top 5 like or top 10 like a lot of other people do. Don't get that wrong. He is an extremely good, young, talented receiver. I just think that to me he's been great, obviously. I mean, 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons out of the gate. Great, but he's not really had that big season of production yet for me to want to put him top 10. Sort of like DK Metcalf. I'm aware that he has better stats than Metcalf, but at the same time, like, Metcalf had an amazing year last year. And so if you're really going off of, like, last year, I mean, Metcalf was just better. And with A.J. Brown, I think by the end of the season, he'll be a top 10 receiver easily for me, but he could be pushing that top 5. Because again, obviously now he's the number 2, so he'll be getting, against the number 2 guys. And so, yeah, A.J. Brown, put him on notice for the league. Josh Reynolds, he's a serviceable guy. I think I'm expecting not quite the production, which wasn't even that great from LA, just because, LA can make any offensive player look good, really. I mean, that's just the brilliance of Sean McVay. So yeah, I expect him to kind of drop off a little bit here. The thing with this room is I don't like the depth here. Again, Josh Reynolds I expect to be a little bit worse. Dez Fitzpatrick was not a player that I liked coming out of the draft. I've never even heard of Racey McMath until he got taken. Fred Brown is just a player I literally just know because the Broncos had him on the roster for a few years. So you have arguably the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. Issue is after that, depth gets real questionable and real bad. So because of that, that's also going to drop the grade. That's the thing with these Titans is they're a very good team. But they better hope their guys stay healthy, and luckily most of their roster most of the time is a very healthy group, but it didn't help bringing in guys like Julio Jones and Bud Dupree, because if they do get hurt, you're kind of just in the same situation you were last year, which was still a good situation, but you're not going to make that push like you're really hoping for this year. So the receiver room, because depth, it is going to drop it down to an A- as well, but still, again, obviously still a fantastic duo there. At tight end, you lost Jonnu Smith, who was really declining anyways since that one big season, and really he's always been more of a fantasy football type tenor anyways. I always thought he was a bit overrated. Regardless, him to Anthony Firkser is still a downgrade now. I do think Firkser will be decent here with the Titans. I mean, tight end's one of those positions where as long as the team values it somewhat, whoever your starter is will have at least a decent year, and there's always the chance that you have yourself a Logan Thomas or a Robert Tonyan. And so I feel like Anthony Firkser could be that guy. I don't feel confident about it, but he could be that guy for sure. Besides that, the tight end room is nothing to talk about. So for right now, it's going to get a D- because, again, I don't really see that breakout from Firkser, but it is possible, so that's not why it's not quite an F. We're just going to skip over fullback. Nobody cares about that. Left tackle. Again, I know fullback obviously is a position, but it's not worth talking about. Don't get mad over that. Left tackle, Taylor Lewan, one of the best in the business. Just the start of a really good offensive line here for the Titans. This is kind of weird too, because again, people told me ESPN's more accurate, but it's why do they have Reduns at guard? I mean, I guess I just think I would prefer starting Reduns over Ty Sambrailo, but okay. But anyways, so yeah, Taylor Lewan, he's great. David Questenberry, not great. He was not very good for the Chargers, although he didn't even play much. He wasn't good when he did. He's just been a depth player, so really couldn't say how he'd be as a starter that much. But regardless, you do have one of the best in the business in Taylor Lewan, and depth, once again, is just whatever here. So that's going to be a B for me. And at left guard, Roger Saffold. He's a good guard, That's pretty much what I have to say. He's a good guard, and he's not elite. He's not bad. He's pretty solid all around, and once again, another solid piece to this offensive line. Paul Adams, once again, just a notable name, but just very meh depth here. So that's going to get you a C+, just because Saffold, he's good, but there's no depth here. He's not that good. At center, Ben Jones, one of the best centers in the NFL. I think he's really underappreciated for what he does. I think centers in general are very underappreciated, so are guards. But I mean, offensive line in general is underappreciated, but especially center and guard. Ben Jones is one of the more underappreciated players in the NFL because he is a dominant run blocker, and he's great, obviously. Once again, no depth here, but Ben Jones, fantastic. So that's going to be a B plus for me. At right guard, Nate Davis, yeah, I mean, that's probably who you're starting, I guess. And he's good. I just feel like he's a bit overrated, but you know, you can upgrade from that. Still a good guy. I think he plays better because of the talent around him. He certainly does have some great talent around him. Although right tackle did definitely downgrade. I mean, losing Jack Conklin obviously a couple years ago, and last year, you're starting a guy who just signed with the Packers. That I can't remember the name of right now. But, he was good. So you're still downgrading here. Again, I don't know why you'd have Redunds as your backup guard. I think Redunds was actually one of the more NFL-ready prospects of this year's draft. So to me, it doesn't make much sense why they wouldn't start Redunds day one. Because Ty Sombrello is not good. If anything, if you're not going to start Redunds, you're starting Kendall Lamb. So to me, there's absolutely no chance Ty Sombrello starts here. It's going to be Lamb or Redunds, and if I had to bet, I'm betting on Redunds. So I'm not gonna follow ESPN. I'm gonna put Redunds over at right tackle. Kendall Lamb as your second, and then Sombrello as your third. This is a room that actually has good depth, unlike the other rest of the offense. Redunds, like I said, one of the more NFL-ready prospects out of this year's draft class. Actually a really solid pass blocker, but also a dominant run blocker as well, so great to add for these tight ends. I mean, I know some people think it's the reverse, but I liked what I saw from his run blocking. Kendall Lamb, though, was a really nice veteran to bring over here to be as your backup. He's a nice depth piece there. Ty Sombrello, I think he's your third is fine, but he should not be starting. You're going to have big problems if you start Sombrello. And yeah, no one else really to talk about here, but for once you actually do have good depth, and you do have a nice tackle that I do think holds a lot of upside, and actually will play for you, unlike a certain wannabe rapper. But yeah, so regardless, right tackle for right now going to be a C, but definitely probably upgrades pretty soon, because again, I think Redunds, he's going to come in day one and make an impact. Not Tristan Wirfs' impact, but he will make an impact. So yeah, this offense, it's great. The offensive line, fantastic. Tight end, meh. But the receiving room, you have one of the best receiver duos, the best running back in the football, and a guy that certainly more than gets the job done. The big issue with this entire offense is obviously depth is really lacking. But like I said, the Titans do have a good training staff. Their guys stay healthy. That's why the moves of Julio Jones and Bud Dupree are a bit, kind of a question mark, but, overall, very, very scary offense. So moving on to the defense. This is a defense that, like I said earlier, I think is pretty underrated, to be honest. I mean, starting off with Jeffrey Simmons, talk about underappreciated. This guy's, I guess, okay. Jeffrey Simmons, because I was going to say something, but that would spoil something. Jeffrey Simmons is fantastic. Titans fans know it, but pretty much no one else does. Jeffrey Simmons is basically the only reason this Titans defense hasn't been god-awful the last year. He's great. I don't know what else to say besides that. He's super underappreciated. He's a really good run defender, but, he does everything. And so now that I think you've finally gotten him help, who knows? Jeffrey Simmons could be elite this year. No one behind him, but, again, Jeffrey Simmons, great. So that's going to give you a B- there, but again, depth, an issue. At defensive tackle, yeah, this is bad. I guess they're calling their starter Taylor Tot. Never heard of him. Kyle Pico maybe. I mean, I know he took up a spot on the Broncos IR for all of last year, so that's great. No idea who Anthony Rush is. That's a bad room. That's probably the worst defensive tackle room in the NFL. Maybe the worst defensive line position in the NFL. That's an F-. I know one guy on here, and it's because he used to be on a Broncos roster. this is a big obvious hole. So I would not be surprised if the Titans run, if they don't run a nose tackle and use an extra linebacker, because a certain linebacker has looked really good through camp and this first preseason game. But moving on to the other defensive end room, Denico Autry over from the Colts was a nice pickup. He is an upgrade over who they had last year. I'm trying to remember who they had last year. Actually, I don't remember who was their defensive end last year. Obviously, Jarrell Casey the year before that, but then he got traded to the Broncos. So, I mean, Denico Autry, regardless, whoever it was, he's an upgrade over, obviously. He's not the best guy in the world, but he's whatever. Once again, depth lacking, and Autry himself is nothing special, so that's going to bring it down to a C- for me. Still better than last year. At one of the outside linebacker rooms, Harold Landry was not very good last year. Once again, I think adding some help, obviously will help him as well, but he is a little past his prime. They brought over John Simon. I guess I thought he signed with the Patriots, unless this is a different John Simon, but I'm pretty sure it's the guy that signed with the Patriots, but I don't know. I'll have to look into that. If this is the John Simon that signed with the Patriots early this offseason, that is a nice pickup. If not, then no idea who this is, to be honest. But I don't know who Ola Adeniyi is. So Landry, since he's pretty much by himself here, I'll give the room a C, I guess. At inside linebacker, though, I do really like the inside linebacker room. You got Jayon Brown and Rashaan Evans starting. Maybe the best linebacker. Well, I mean, nothing's beating the Buccaneers, but maybe the second best linebacking duo in the NFL. Jayon Brown, I think, one of the more, again, underappreciated guys, and Rashaan Evans has been playing fantastic. The other guy here though, and why I say, they might not use a nose tackle and use like an extra linebacker, is David Long, who's also been very impressive, and I think he could be a starter for the Titans this year. They brought Jayon Brown back on a one-year contract. I think Rashaan Evans' contract is up this year too, so I'd very much expect to see David Long starting after this year for the Titans. But even then, I do think he is a great linebacker, especially as your number 3. And they picked up Monty Rice out of Georgia, which I was a big fan of. I liked Monty Rice. I thought he was a guy that would drop because of his size, and he actually didn't drop as much as I thought he would, but still a very solid linebacker for them to pick up. So by some chance they lose Jayon Brown and Rashaan Evans, I don't think David Long and Monty Rice would be that bad of a duo next year, but I do think they'll keep one of their linebackers. Either way, this is a very good, nice, depthy room with some solid starters, some underappreciated guys, and to me, that's going to get you an A-. At the other outside linebacking room, Bud Dupree, like I said earlier, it doesn't make all the sense in the world because this is a team that, you're really banking on your guys to stay healthy here since you have no depth, and Bud Dupree is someone who struggled with injury even just this last year. The year before that, obviously great, but he's a bit of a one-year wonder. Now, I'm a defender of Bud Dupree. I think he's one of those players in the NFL, I've said this with multiple guys now, to where if you put talent around him, he will feast. And obviously, he was great a couple years ago when he had Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, TJ Watt. Stephon Tuitt wasn't quite in his form he was last season, for example. But regardless, it's a downgrade for sure. I think it's a kind of a weird dynamic because Simmons is a guy that, if he got some help, I think could become elite. And Bud Dupree is a guy that, with some help, could be elite. So Jeffrey Simmons and Bud Dupree could possibly make one of the best pass rushing duos in the NFL, or they could both. Well, Jeffrey Simmons isn't going to suck, but Bud Dupree could be disappointing, and that doesn't help out anyone, obviously. I liked him coming to Tennessee, but I didn't like the contract. I simply don't think he's worth that, and again, health can be a bit of an issue, and he's someone that does need talent around him to play. I'd love him to prove me wrong, but a big part of this team, and especially this defense, is going to be, can Simmons and Dupree really click like that? We'll have to see. Behind that, Rashad Weaver. I always viewed him as more of a defensive end, but they have him over here. Rashad Weaver, I'm just going to call this right now, he had the best pass rush win rate of any rookie guys in this week's preseason games. Go check out my edge rankings. He was my number 7, so, I liked him a lot, talked about it. Just want to put that out there. Regardless, still a big fan of Rashad Weaver. I was always a big fan of him coming out of Pittsburgh. More than his teammate Patrick Jones, who everyone was high on. So I think he's probably your guy for the future. Again, I thought he'd play more of that defensive end role, but I mean, I guess if you want to make him like your Harold Landry replacement, I wouldn't be against that. Or you could replace, Danico Autry. Maybe if he gains a little weight, maybe you could even throw him at nose tackle. I mean, I guess if you really wanted to. But Rashad Weaver, do really like him, so I like him as nice young depth there. But for that room, I'm going to give a C+, just because there is some question marks on will Dupree produce, and, obviously I don't expect Weaver to make a big impact year one, but I think he can be a good guy for the future. At cornerback, this is a group that's kind of underrated to me personally. I mean, Janoris Jenkins was actually really solid for the Saints last year, and that was a really nice pickup for a Titans team that kind of demolished their secondary. I don't see Christian Fulton starting. I did like Christian Fulton, but, I just don't see him as a starter quite yet. I think he could be for the future, though. I'll talk about Caleb Farley in a second. Elijah Molden, in my opinion, was the best slot corner of this draft. So, if the Titans want to play a slot corner, a nickel corner, Elijah Molden's your guy, and he'll go in there day one, I think, and be fantastic at the job. So that's great to have, obviously. But then Caleb Farley. I really liked the pick, actually. There were some other picks that maybe I would have liked a bit better. I might have liked, a defensive tackle or, a receiver a bit better. But, I mean, Caleb Farley, the thing with him is that the sky is the limit. There are some players in this class with big ceilings. You look at, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence. There are guys with very big ceilings. Caleb Farley might just have the biggest ceiling of any of them. This guy, athletically, is, quite honest, insane. His sense for football is just incredible. The only, and I mean ONLY, reason that he fell in the draft to 22, this guy could have legit been the number one corner off the board before a guy like Horn, who I still don't understand why he went before Satan. You saw that this weekend, why that's the wrong pick. Farley could have gone before both of them because he is that good. But the only reason, like I was saying, the only reason he dropped those is because of injuries. He had surgery, and they're really scared off teams. But I liked the pick a lot for the Titans because not only do they need a corner for the future, and Farley has the potential to be literally like a top 5 corner all time. That's how good he could be. I mean, why not? I mean, you're such a talented team that's already competing now. Why not take a bet on a guy at a position that you need for the future that has such an, to be honest, an unlimited ceiling? There is no ceiling for Caleb Farley. It's not just high. It's not just super high. There is no ceiling for Caleb Farley. If he stays healthy, I fully believe he'll reach that. So, in all honesty, this was a great pick for the Titans. I don't think you should be starting day one, but, I mean, you're going to have to start someone. And I guess if he's not healthy, start Christian Fulton, but this could be a guy that steps in, maybe doesn't perform as well day one, but future, I mean, Caleb Farley's going to be a monster. Strong safety, Amani Hooker, we'll see what he does. Losing Malik Hooker, obviously, or not Malik Hooker, Kenny Vaccaro. I guess they were just clearing out space. I always liked Kenny Vaccaro, but I don't know, I guess they just wanted to move on from him. Kind of surprised he hasn't been picked up by anyone yet. So we'll see what Amani Hooker does. No one behind him, so that'll get you a D+ for right now. There is some upside there, and I guess the corner position I'll give a B- there for right now. And then at free safety, Kevin Byard, one of the best safeties in the business. I kind of snubbed him, to be honest, on my safety rankings. He's borderline top 5, to be honest, so he's great. Obviously, they just picked up Tedrick Thompson. They have Dan Cruikshank, Brady Breeze. No depth here, but one of the best in the business with Kevin Byard. So that'll drop it down to a B+, but again, obviously Kevin Byard's still one of the best in the business. So this defense, I think it's a bit underrated. You have some very good guys here. Jeffrey Simmons, John Brown, Rashaan Evans, David Long, Farley, such a high floor. Jenkins a bit underrated. Byard, one of the best. A big piece of this defense is, does Bud Dupree stay healthy and does he perform? We'll have to see. But this defense, I think, is underrated overall, and I think people are hating on it a bit too much. And then the special teams, their kicker's a bit of a battle right now. We don't know if it'll be Ficken or McMahon. Probably McMahon. Brett Kern, on the other hand, that is not a battle. In my opinion, yes, over Johnny Hekker, he is the best punter in the NFL. They've legit lost a game because they didn't have Brett Kern. So, great punter. To explain that, just field position and all that, punting sucked when he wasn't there. So Brett Kern, best punter in the NFL. Kick returner, I guess Chester Rogers or Derrickson Evans, I guess it's those guys. And they actually have a really solid special teams unit in itself. But overall, like I said, offense, deadly. Defense, underrated. Special teams, really good. No depth. The defense does have a bit better depth in some positions, like the linebacking, cornerback does have a bit of depth. And right tackle has some depth. Otherwise, the depth across the board, really bad here. As long as our guys stay healthy, they're good, obviously. But again, it's still a little puzzling why they brought in Bud Dupree and Julio Jones. So now let's go take a look at their coaching culture and schedule. And taking a look here at their schedule, it's pretty tough. There are definitely a lot of tough games here. You're facing the NFC West, so that's obviously tough. 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, and Cardinals. Colts, division games are always going to be tough, except for the Texans. Jaguars won't be a super tough game, obviously. Chiefs, they're the Chiefs. Rams, they're the Rams. The Saints will be a tough game. Patriots will be a tough game. Steelers will be a tough game. Dolphins should put up a fight. Yeah, it's not a very easy schedule here. If they stay healthy, this is a super talented team, obviously. So they will definitely win a lot of these, toss-up games. And especially, the tougher games like, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Steelers. I expect them to win those games. I also think that the Titans can legit beat the better teams like the Bills, the Rams, the Chiefs. I don't think they'll beat all three of them, but I think they can win at least one or two of those games. This is a very talented team. Depth is lacking, but like I said, if they stay healthy, this is a very talented team. Mike Vrabel is a good coach. I don't expect their offense to take that big, if any, decline. I'm sure there will be a bit of a decline. Arthur Smith, again, is a very brilliant, just offensive mind. But, again, I trust Mike Vrabel as a coach. He is a good coach. He motivates his guys very well. And he just wins those games. The culture here in Tennessee is obviously very good. A lot of these players just seem like, they know each other. They're having fun. They love each other. There's that chemistry. I definitely see one of the best teams in the NFL that I see the most chemistry from with teammates and stuff is the Titans. They've got that going for them. They've got a winning culture, a winning coach, deadly offense, underrated defense. Tough schedule, yes, but they're playing in, frankly, an easier division, and even if they don't have the best record in the world, it's still pretty hard to lose this division at this point, unless Wentz does play well for the Colts. So, the Titans, deadly team, and that is why they are my number 8 power ranked team. That is going to be the video, though, guys. If you like the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stick with me, even though the video is probably going to be choppy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.